So we're going to look at some training activities that you can use for some of the concepts with the back three. One of the advantages of the back three is that you will be more compact centrally than you would likely be in a back four. Again, depends on the makeup of your players, what you ask them to do with and without the ball. So devil is in the detail a little bit, but just from a very generic standpoint, you're going to be more compact centrally in your back three. So how do we train that is something that we're going to look at. With that level of being compact centrally, you're always going to leave something open, and one of the areas that the opposition are likely to target you in, especially in transition, is the space behind your wing backs, either side of your back three. That's why I feel something that's very important to the success of your back three is having outside centre backs who are comfortable defending in wide areas, so have the mobility and 1v1 defending capabilities on the sideline, like a top class fullback would in a back four. So these are just some of the things that we're going to touch on briefly. We're just going to have a quick look at some activities and again some of the concepts that we're trying to work on with our back three. So let's just jump straight into these right now. Here we go. So looking at some of the focus points for our training, we want to work on staying compact centrally. How do we defend our line? One of the situations that we'll look at is how do we defend our line if we have been exposed. The space in behind the wing back. So looking at defending things like crosses from the wide channels in behind the wing back. And then with the ball, what are we trying to do? What angles are we trying to create? Who are we trying to release? And ultimately, what are we trying to take advantage of that we see in our opposition? Obviously, what are we trying to utilise in the strengths of our own players as well? And then just a little bit of transition in terms of how we get players to support around the ball, and obviously a little bit of transition how we defend as well. So nothing revolutionary here whatsoever, just simple ideas that you could just change if this was back four defending as well. So looking at staying compact centrally, this is just a little 3-channel defending game. You're going to start off, red team going to pass the ball across to the white team are then going to attack the red team 3v3. You could maybe start this activity off with 1v1 in each channel, so each white player taking on a red player to each mini goal, and then progress it into this. But right now we're just going to jump straight into the 3v3 version of this, and the picture that you see here will be animated in just a minute. So the idea has been, can you get pressure on the ball if the attacking player in your channel is in possession of it? The other two players, can you cover off your goal so that the attacking player doesn't have easy access to just play the ball in behind you and score into your goal? Obviously, the white players have got the ability to take on the red players 1v1, so managing that inside your own channel as well. So the white team looking to score in any of the 3 goals, and a progression to this activity would just simply be to allow free movement across any of the channels. And now in that situation, it's up to you whether you pick up the channels or not, maybe leave them down. I actually like to just leave them down for a reference point, but again, entirely up to what you want to do. So as we get into this, red team play it across to the white team try and keep the ball moving, looking for any sort of like lapses from the red team, and then obviously we manufacture a situation that actually comes up when you tend to do this activity, is that somebody just is a little bit late in stepping to pressure the player on the ball, and it's not mainly that they can get beat, it just might mean that they're a little bit slow in getting there, so the ball moves beyond them, which can then leave them a little bit slow in getting back as well. So as we just watch through here, you see the white player here is on the ball trying to dribble 1v1, red player blocks him off, but these two players are dropping off to protect their goal so that there's nothing easy coming in from this white player that can just score an easy goal. And then as it continues, ball recirculates, as it comes back to the middle player, they've just played a quick bounce out to this player who's now coming inside a little bit, still obviously within their channel, but coming into this dividing line a little bit, and this red defender's sleeping a little bit, not defending their goal, which gives us easy access to tap that in. So as this game would be going on, if the red team win the ball, they could either clear the ball or look to dribble over this end line here. And as that happens, then the game would just reset with the yellow teams coming on as the attackers and the green team coming on as the new set of defenders, and that would just continue throughout the activity. Again, one of the areas that the opposition are likely to target are these red zones here in behind your wing backs, based on what you're asking your wing backs to do and how high up the field they're likely to get. So with that in mind, we're going to look at two different activities. With this defend the line game, again, 1v1 defending within the central areas. So the coach here in black will play a pass in to one of the white forwards on the ground in the air. Red player go and win the header if they can. If the ball's on the ground, you just want your white player to try and hold up the ball for as long as they can until the red player can kind of come through and eventually stab the ball away or take it off them. And then once that happens, the coach is primed with another ball, so that once the red team win their battle in the central area, there is a pass played out to one of these wide players, again exposing that space in behind a wing back, and at that point can the white team just cross the ball into the red team and try and score. So point system that I think keeps scores close and kind of competitive. If the white team get a shot on target, they get 1 point. If they get a goal, they'll get 3 points. And for the red team, any clearance they get outside of the 18 is 2 points. And again, that's just encouraging a real kind of focus on defending the zone and not, clearing things short or not clearing things centrally. So how this activity would look: ball comes in, red player wins it, coach will trigger that pass out wide, and now you've just got 3v3 to go. Can the red team take care of the ball and clear it away? So again, this initial pass in could be in the air, could be on the ground. You could allow the white players to try and take on a defender with their back to goal, see what they can do in that 1v1 situation with their back to goal, but ultimately you'd hope that your red player would be able to win that ball and then lead you into this moment where the Reds are now having to rush back towards their own goal, defending against the momentum. Something that, again, you might see in the game quite a lot. One activity that I've used in the past is, and this again goes into the space behind the wing backs, but now you're looking to establish possession of the ball and how quickly can you transition out and maybe break the initial line of pressure. So right here you've got a centre back and the recovering wing back being pressed by a forward in this space. So just give them a ball, again, on the ground in the air, just something to deal with. And can we try and get on the same page? And that was the very, very first rep that we ever did with this activity. So as it went on throughout the days, weeks, months, the pictures that we got became a lot clearer. We didn't rely on the fact that we had kids with a bit of pace. So again, you can move that into a situation where it's not just 2v1, get the goalkeepers involved, you can make it 3v2. So can we play into our goalkeeper and then just break that line of pressure with a bit of movement and get ourselves going forward? If anyone's wondering, I did do this activity without any pennies. I was putting a real focus as well on communication and just looking up and knowing who was on your team. But I don't recommend that you do this activity with people all in the same colour. But again, it gives you a moment in the game. Teams at some point will play balls in behind you. You're going to have to recover, and with that recovery is likely to come a bit of pressure. So how do you deal with that? How calm are your players in those moments, knowing that any turnover is so close to the goal? And again, just another way to utilise goalkeepers into your training session.
We'll just take a quick break here. Thank you so much for watching the content at Modern Soccer Coach. If you would like to support what we're doing and help us provide more free coaching education with the webinars and the podcasts and everything else, please take a look at this offer that we have from the webinars over the summer. Coaches can now download every single webinar tactical presentation that we did from the lockdown period over the summer. Just over $1 per webinar. You can personally download all 25 webinars that will be yours to keep. Each webinar is over 1 hour long and features a detailed presentation followed by live Q&A with the coaches in attendance. We cover topics such as youth and elite player development, sports science, tactical analysis, match preparation, goalkeeper pressing, and other key specific areas. We had coaches such as Jesse Marsh, Nolan Sheldon, Ivan Baregi, Adine Osman-Basic, Oliver Gage, Jonas Munkfall, Kat Smith, John Wall, and many more. modernsoccercoach.com/shop. You can go there, get yours now, support Modern Soccer Coach, help us provide free content with our webinars and podcasts throughout the year. Thank you.
So when we've got the ball, so just moving on from the activity that we just did, when you've got the ball, just some of the different things that you might be looking to do. So how do we find a bounce pass into the midfield that helps us to release the wing backs? So again, just a bit of pattern play here. You know, can we rotate the centre mids? As you'll see, this right side attacking centre mid's going to come down, and can there just be a bounce pass into the wing back? And again, with things like this, obviously numbers are in favour of the attacking team, but if the opposition's winger doesn't come down to the centre back and they stay with the wing back, do you look to get your centre back to just drive into space and then maybe find a pass that drops you out to the other side of the field? So as we're playing through and we get to this situation, if this player was staying here with a wing back, then you'd look for this centre back to maybe come in. Obviously in the game, this centre mid here might be picked up by somebody if you're playing against a 4-3-3, but just to help have the initial success in training, I would start this off 3 against 2, and then obviously you can add in an extra centre mid. But if this player doesn't come off the wing back to pressure the centre back, you'd look for your centre back to carry into the space and then maybe get a centre mid to detach, or depending on their passing range, maybe they can play a pass into this space to this wing back moving on, or maybe one of your forwards is checking down. But again, just working on the initial timing and thought process and the visualization of what an option might look like to get your wing back released off of a bounce pass up the field. So we'll just go with that. Something else you might look to do, this is kind of a popular thing with a 3-3-1-3 or a 3-3-3-1. Something that obviously Bielsa's done in the past, kind of similar to what Chile did a little bit under Sampali. And then it's actually, if you're looking to get one of your outside centre backs running up the wing, it's something that's quite interesting at the moment to watch Sheffield United do this. They actually get their centre backs overlapping their wing backs, which is daring, it's inventive, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So again, and this just gives you a different look in the activity. Before we played numbers up, here we're just going to simply play against mannequins. You can do mannequins for all your passing patterns. You can do numbers up, or you can just try and recreate it in the 11v11, which we'll see as well. But one of the options here, as the ball comes back down into this centre back, centre mid opens up, and then we get the centre back breaking out into the wide channel. Important piece here is obviously just trying to create a little diagonal angle off of this centre back so that our body shape is already orientated to be able to play forward or out to the larger side of the field and not necessarily to the same side of the field that the ball came from. So we get this little pass in, and then your other centre mid, so you've got your line of 3 here and your 3 centre mids here. Other one just checking down, looking for the ball to come to them, and then that could be a trigger if this player is going to be able to get on the ball facing forward and this space is opened up. We can get right side centre back attacking into this space, and then at that point it's important to replace this right side centre back with somebody else just to maintain the integrity of your back three. So just a little rotation between your centre mid and your centre back so that you still essentially have your 3-3 in your first two lines. I think this goes hand in hand with having right side centre back and left side centre back who are comfortable defending in wide areas. If you have those players who have the kind of similar characteristics to a fullback, then maybe they're comfortable attacking in wide areas as well. So this might be something that you could look to do. And again, something that you see a little bit now with Sheffield United and some of the German teams starting to incorporate it more as well. Other things you can do, trying to play forward here. So again, we've seen doing your passing pattern work, numbers up in one half of the field. We did it with mannequins, so now we just kind of look to do it 11v11. And for this, essentially trying to figure out how we can play into the forwards in as few passes as possible and what things might we have to do to make that an option. So starting from the goalkeeper, just goal kick situation, other team trying to press you with a front three. How do you break this initial line of pressure? So bounce ball back to the goalkeeper, then you get your centre back kind of coming off at an angle. Once they pick it up, you might get a centre mid on the other team now coming to press your centre back. So with that, something that you can do, and this is just trying to train the kind of recognition and the ability to play different passes from your three centre backs, but can we get this centre back on the ball? Can we split these two centre mids, which can give us access to a front three? Because we can push one of our three. If we go back to the start here, we've got our three centre mids in here, but what we should or could be able to do, again, player dependent, depends on their attributes. Does this attacking centre mid have the ability to go up here and be a 9 or like a narrow 11 or a narrow 7, which will just hopefully pin this fullback into the back four and then give this centre mid a kind of problem about where did they go and maybe leave you an option to play into a forward. So again, watching that, ball goes out wide, bounce it back, inviting the central forward to come down, play it back out to the centre back, and then hoping at this point the movement and the timing, which is what you're essentially rehearsing in training to get it game realistic. Hopefully all of that plays in your favours, and now these two centre mids have split wide, bringing their markers with them, and that should give you access into these central midfield players right here, or sorry, central forward players. And here's your attacking centre mid at this point, just playing as a narrow 11. Obviously, with that, the other trigger would be if these centre midfielders don't go into these wide areas or these kind of into the half space with your centre mids, then they would be open. And instead of looking for this pass into the forward, you might be able to play a direct pass in here that might, allow this centre mid to be able to take one touch and break this line. And now again, you've just got access to the back four and you're running at the opposition and hopefully creating them all sorts of problems. So this in particular here, this was something that Bayern Munich did very well against Chelsea, as much as it pains me to say that. Bayern were very good at this. If they weren't able to play directly into feet, and if things were still picked up quite tightly, they've got Robert Lewandowski up top, who's an unbelievable player and does such a fantastic job as a target that it allows Bayern Munich to invite this pressure down. And if the options to play out short don't exist, then they can play outlet to Lewandowski on the ground, but they can actually play it to him in the air as well. He's able to flick things on, direct headers back into these midfield players here and here who are then coming inside to support. And that supporting angle is something that's important. and we'll touch on that right now. So here's an activity that you can use to work on defensive transition a little bit, but attacking transition to build support. So what we're going to get is the ball will get played across to one team. So ball's coming over here just now to the red team. Blue team coming to defend them. The three greens are going to leave one player back centrally. So again, this might represent the ball going into your number 9. And then this might be a wing back and a wing back. So as the ball comes over, red team trying to play passes, find options to play through. And again, you don't need to have the mannequins here. You could maybe even have another team of 3 and just leave the greens back here. But sometimes like to put mannequins in just because it gives you another visual reference that you're trying to play through, or that people are trying to take up their positioning off of. So blue's coming across to win the ball. Can reds play it? Obviously, if this player's too narrow, we would just play up to this wing back and across. But can we move a little bit to try and break this line of pressure here? So again, if this is our back 3, we might be pressed with a 3, a forward 3, a narrow forward 3 from the opposition. And if that's the case, how do we keep the ball moving in order to maybe just find enough space to be able to play this pass into the centre mid, or bigger pass like we just saw into one of the forwards? And then the ball would come across. The blues would then come back across because they haven't won the ball or broken the play up, so they're still defending. And then the reds transition into having one player back and then somebody wide, kind of simulating wing back, just essentially giving you a little bit of wide support, so that if the press gets too narrow, we would just go around it rather than going through it. Obviously, the blues managed to win it. They would just play it across, and now the greens transfer into defending. So just something that helps you work on those reactions for when you play the ball across. Can you then quickly identify that this player would have to get into this channel to support? But again, it's got the added advantage of you've got your back 3 playing through a narrow front 3 here. But even with that, if this ended up all being defenders or all being players within your squad who are likely to play central defence, then they're essentially working on the activity that we saw at the start with the 3 channels. How do you stop yourself getting played through that easily? So just an idea of something that you can work on again, get the ball moving and see what you can take advantage of, and all the relevant coaching points within that. Nothing too elaborate, nothing groundbreaking, just some activities that replicate what we're likely to see in the game. So challenges to your back 3 staying compact centrally, challenges to the space in behind the wing back, and how do your centre backs deal with that? What are you trying to do in possession of the ball? Is it important that you're trying to release a wing back because you play a 3-5-2? Is it important that you try and manufacture a 5-2-3 shape? Do you play with a narrow front 3? Do you manipulate your centre mids so that you can get someone in your back 3 to play directly into your forwards? So bypassing essentially all lines of pressure and just getting straight at the opposition's back line. Just seeing those pictures and creating things that will happen in the game. Obviously, for any kind of transition moments, I think one of the best activities has always just been, if you're going to play 9v9, 8v8, 11v11, whatever your numbers and squad dictates that you're able to do, just find moments where, as the game's going on, have a coach on the field with balls in hand, and then adjust the wrong moment for the attacking team. Maybe the right wing back's just broken into the attacking third of the field and is about to whip in across. Maybe at that moment you drop a ball to the opposition's number 10 and get them going in a counter attack, and see how your back 3 or your overall team shape recovers in those moments. And again, just give a little bit more understanding of ways that your team can be exposed, and just things that your back 3 have to be thinking about whether they have the ball or not. So a couple of ideas there that have worked well for me, and that I've seen work well for a lot of other coaches, and that ultimately like everything else, have been stolen from people who've got far more knowledge than I do. So hopefully it helps you guys out and is at the very least a good foundation to build some activities on for your back three.